A hungry, widowed alien woman snuck into a human's kitchen for a warm meal until the man fed her. The night was quiet on the far edge of the colony frontier. Crickets sang beneath the stars, and the only light came from the orange glow of a lantern hanging above a modest wooden cabin. Inside, Jacob Harris, former soldier turned farmer, sat at his table, finishing the last of his stew. The cabin smelled of baked bread, herbs, and wood smoke. It was a simple life, but after years of war, simplicity was peace. But Jacob wasn't alone that night. Something shifted in the shadows near the kitchen. A faint scrape of claws against wood, a whisper of fabric. He froze, hand instinctively go to the old revolver resting on the counter. Slowly, carefully, he turned his head. A woman stood half hidden in the doorway, trembling. Not a human woman, at least not entirely. Her skin glowed faintly pale under the lamplight, marked with faint streaks of silver, like veins of starlight. Her hair, long and tangled, shimmered violet in strands. Her wide black eyes flicked between Jacob and the steaming pot of stew still on the stove. She clutched a ragged cloak around herself, thin as paper against the cold night, and her ribs showed. Jacob's jaw tightened. He knew the look of hunger. He'd seen it on battlefields, in refugee camps, and in his own reflection during the lean years. The woman stepped forward, shaking as though expecting him to strike her. Her voice came out raw, broken. I mean no harm. Please, just a meal, just a little warmth. Jacob's finger lingered on the revolver, but his heart warred against his instincts. She was an enemy soldier. She wasn't carrying a weapon. She was just desperate. Sit, he said at last, voice steady. He gestured to the table. If you're hungry, you'll eat. The alien woman's breath caught. She hesitated, as if unsure whether it was a trick. But when Jacob rose, filled a bowl with steaming stew, and set it gently in front of her, the cloak slipped from her shoulders and she sank into the chair. She devoured the food like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Jacob didn't interrupt. He just watched silently, noting the way her hands trembled, the way tears slid down her cheeks as she swallowed. Only after she licked the bowl, clean, did she speak again. You should not have fed me. If your people knew... Jacob folded his arms. I don't give a damn what people think. Hungry's hungry. Her eyes widened at that. For a moment, the weight of her grief cracked through her guarded mask. My husband, she whispered, voice breaking. Gone. The war took him. Left me nothing. No tribe, no kin. Only hunger. Jacob's chest ached. He knew that wound. He'd buried comrades. He'd buried his own wife 3 winters ago. They weren't so different. 2 broken souls, clinging to scraps of survival. What's your name? He asked softly. She blinked. Lyra. Well, Lyra, Jacob said, sliding the breadbasket toward her. Eat your fill. You're safe here tonight. The days that followed blurred into a strange routine. Jacob would rise before dawn, tend his fields, chop wood, and when he returned, Lyra would be there. At first shy and cautious, hovering by the edge of his porch like a stray cat afraid to be chased off. But slowly, with each meal shared, she began to step inside. She was fragile, worn by hunger and sorrow. Yet beneath that weakness, Jacob saw hints of strength. Her people, he learned, had once been warriors and healers, bound to stars. Now, scattered by war, they were hunted, treated as burdens. He never asked her to leave, and she, though still wary, began to help. Her hands, though alien, knew the ways of soil and fire. She weeded his small garden, mended his worn clothes with threads of silver fiber she carried hidden in her cloak. At night, she would hum soft, mournful songs in a language Jacob did not understand, but the melodies filled the cabin with warmth he hadn't felt in years. One evening, as autumn winds rattled the windows, Jacob caught her staring at him across the table. "Why do you not fear me?" she asked suddenly. "Should I?" he replied. Her lips trembled. "Your kind, they call us cursed. Widows of the war. Tainted. Worthless." Jacob snorted. "I've seen men worth less than dirt who wore medals on their chest. You're alive. You're trying. That's worth more than they know." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she smiled. Winter came hard that year. Snow buried the fields, and the nights bit cold. Jacob rationed wood and stew, but the cabin remained a haven. He caught Lyra staring at the fire often, her face shadowed with memories. One night, she whispered, "I dreamed of him again, my husband." His voice called, but when I reached for him, only silence. Jacob reached across the table, hesitating before placing his calloused hand over hers. Her skin was cool, faintly luminescent beneath his touch. She didn't pull away. "Grief doesn't vanish," he said quietly, "but it gets lighter when someone shares the weight." Her eyes shone with tears. "And what of you, Jacob Harris? Do you carry grief?" He swallowed. "My wife. Cancer. Took her before the war ended. After that, this farm was all I had." For a long time, they sat in silence, two broken hearts warmed by firelight. The village eventually noticed. Whispers spread about the strange woman seen fetching water with Jacob, about the alien voice singing at night. Some warned him, others threatened. One afternoon, as Jacob returned from trading, 3 men stood waiting by his gate. Their eyes were hard, hands resting near blades. "We heard you've been sheltering one of them." The leader spat. "You know the law. Harboring aliens is forbidden." Jacob's jaw clenched. "She's not a threat. She's just trying to live." "She's a widow?" The man sneered. "Cursed. You'll bring ruin on us all." Before Jacob could reply, Lyra stepped from the cabin, cloak drawn tight. She bowed her head. "If my presence brings you danger, I will leave." "No!" Jacob's voice was iron. He stepped forward, squaring his shoulders. "You'll have to go through me first." The men bristled, but something in Jacob's gaze, something forged in war, made them falter. With muttered curses, they turned and left. When they were gone, Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" she whispered. "Why risk yourself for me?" Jacob looked at her, at the fragile strength she carried, the sorrow that had nearly crushed her yet hadn't destroyed her. "Because no one deserved to starve alone," he said simply. "Because I buried enough ghosts. I won't bury you too." Spring thawed the snow. Flowers bloomed in the garden. And slowly, carefully, what had begun as survival grew into something more. Lyra laughed again, soft, uncertain at first, then bright as morning. She no longer hovered like a shadow at the edges of his life, but walked beside him in the fields, her silver-marked hands planting seeds in dark soil. One evening, she placed a loaf of bread on the table, baked herself. She watched nervously as Jacob took a bite, and when he smiled, she laughed, covering her mouth with slender fingers. "You see," she said, "even widows can learn again." Jacob reached across the table, not just to touch her hand this time, but to hold it firmly. "Not just learn," he murmured. "Live." And for the first time in many years, neither of them felt alone.